we'd like to thank you for joining us today. We're welcoming you to the IBM CyberDay4Girls. And today we're going to be covering the Internet of Me, protecting your online identity. So I'm going to kick us off this morning, and then I'll go over to Ann, and then Vandy will close us out. So let's get started. Okay, when we're talking about the Internet of Me, the very first thing that we're looking at is basically protecting your identity. And so for today's presentation, the first phase that we're going to talk about is helping you to begin to understand how you actually get started within the cybersecurity realm of protecting your information and understanding some of the key operational controls within the space. So when you start thinking about protecting your own identity, what we're actually referencing is really just that. So as you're authenticating to the internet, as you're utilizing different digital pieces of equipment, you want to make sure that the information that you're sharing, the information that you're utilizing, that you're protecting it. And so today we're going to start with the online identity. So when I talk about this and we're looking at some of the information, we begin to ask you a couple of questions. The first is, who has posted trivial information on the internet? I think in most cases, all of us have. When it comes to social media accounts and Instagram and Snapchat, we oftentimes share information with our friends and not really take into consideration how that information may be utilized, how it may be impacted, or how it may reflect on us as an individual. And quite often when we're talking about some of our mobile devices or applications that we're downloading, we don't oftentimes look at some of the privacy settings and to begin to understand. And then passwords, passwords are oftentimes just, we look at them as a nuisance, just as a means to get into the solutions that we want to utilize. But we want to take and share some of the information around securing your information and help you to begin to understand how critical it is in each of these areas, that if you don't secure this, how there's myths around not securing this and begin to clarify some of the information for you. So let's go ahead and get started and go into a little bit more detail. So when we talk about Internet of Me and thinking about security, the very first place we start is, have you ever been hacked? When we think about being hacked, sometimes we think that's more so for corporations and not necessarily about us as individuals. When you think about hackers, you may or may not look at some of the news and some of the feeds that come out where organizations such as WhatsApp, that's often utilized for making phone calls and texting where you don't have to pay fees for it, some of the Google Play, and then of course you guys use probably more Snapchat than anything, but the old solution that was around was the Facebook. And when you look at some of these solutions, oftentimes they have been hacked, and you don't think about the impact that it may have. When we look at hackers, we always think about the guy that's in the basement of the house. He's probably a junk eater, and we think of a hacker as this guy that's kind of confined to this area. But in reality, when we start thinking about hackers look more like business people. They're people that are organized. They have groups and teams of people that basically strive and work to steal data, steal information. And when we question and begin to wonder why, the primary reason why they do this is, of course, for financial gain. When you look at, we started running trends and information on some of the data and the cost that was impacted by us actually losing data. When in 2015, it was costing us about $3 trillion for the data that was being lost. As you can see, that's reflected here from the information that came from Cybersecurity Ventures. It's predicted that next year we're going to end up losing in excess of $6 trillion. And yes, that is 6 trillion, not billion. It's not a typo. And when we think about what this really means is that there's been approximately, on average, around 900 million records that are stolen every year. When on the 900 million records, and you may or may not understand what we mean by a record is basically your personal information. So in your, right now, you may not think that much of your Social Security or your driver's license or, any of your banking information, if your parents have set up, banking accounts for you. But this is the type of data that we're talking about, and we'll take you through more of the information in detail about your personal data, but this is what we mean with records. And see, right now it may not have a big impact on you, but as you grow older and you want to purchase a car or buy a home or any type of item that you want to purchase, then your credit, your financial identity will come into play. And on your financial identity, if your identity has been stolen or hacked or your information has been lost, then you may be at risk of not being able to obtain, whatever you're trying to purchase, whether it's a car, a technology, a program, whatever it may be that you want to purchase at a later date. And so we have to start thinking about this, because on average, when it comes to the companies that are losing information and losing this, it's costing them about $200 per record. So when you start multiplying those $200 times 900 million records, you can see how we quickly get to $6 trillion. So this is what we're really talking about when you think about the cost of cybercrime. And cybercrimes, when we are looking at this across the various industries, it's becoming more and more difficult to stay caught up with the hackers, because as I mentioned before, these are organized, individuals that are thriving to basically steal information. And so as we move on and we start looking at this, hackers are utilizing different types of methods to basically steal your information. And some of the key things that we start with is phishing. When we look at phishing, as you can see reflected here from the cartoon, you can see the cartoon here is, we need, the very first thing is we need to verify your credit card number. And the fish is looking at it saying, don't take the bait, protect your financial information. This is really what we're talking about with phishing. Phishing is basically where hackers will reach out and they'll engage you and they'll try to, attempt you to share your sensitive or personal information. It may be your username, it could be your address, it could be your passwords, your credit card information, and so on. These are all things that are utilized where the hackers will try to tempt you. And we utilize kind of the bait and switchers, which is when you look at the cartoon, the bait is they'll put things in front of you to bait you into sharing confidential information. And you can also see here from the next cartoon, I won't read it to you, but this is where we're just trying to start planting a seed to begin to help you to understand what phishing is. There's two different types of phishing. There's, the digital type, and then there's also phishing that may occur from phones. And so over the next couple of slides, I'm going to take you through an example of what a phishing email will look like. And then we'll talk about how phishing may come in, in the form of a phone call. And so let's go ahead and move on to the next slide. So one of the phishing examples, as you can see here, there's a letter that came in, and if you look at it, it's addressed to Heather, and it's coming from Apple ID, letting her know that someone had recently changed her password. And so if you look at the information, you can see here, if you recently signed onto your device, then disregard this, but it's basically letting her know that someone had authenticated into the system and they're questioning whether or not it's it really was her. So when you look at the email, it really looks as if it came from Apple Canada support team. You can, and if she has an Apple device, in which a lot of people have an Apple device, it would be that much more tempting to click on the link that's provided to go in and check if she knew that she hadn't recently, contacted and had any changes on her account. And so when you look at this email, when we talk about phishing, this is a prime example how a hacker will utilize an email to draw you in to make you click on the link that's listed here. If you click on the link that's listed here, a lot of times they're stealing your information, or they may be downloading malware, software to take over your laptop or your desktop, your tablet, whatever you may be utilizing at that time. And so this is where we try to warn you. If you know that, first off, you hadn't actually changed your password, instead of being tempted to click here, you want to pause and either contact the company, or if you don't want to contact the company, you want to take the time and authenticate into your own Apple account. And if it really came from the company, there will be an alert, a notice within, your account information if you log into your Apple account. So you always want to take the time and think before you actually click on any links. You want to think before you post any information. And this is the first area where hackers try to take advantage of individuals where you may just kind of quickly respond to an email or to a text or information that's been provided. And so this is an example, as I stated, of phishing via an email. Now let's take a look and let's discuss phishing that comes in by phone calls. All of us have been exposed to where we will get those random phone calls from different companies harassing us saying, oh, your computer system is down. We noticed that there's problems on your computer. We want you to get on, and they're going to give you some code, a command that they want you to type in at the command line. That's one of the areas and ways that companies and hackers will reach out trying to steal your information in a form of a phishing attack, a social engineer, where they're actually going out and trying to manipulate you to provide that information. If you do, and you actually respond to that, then they have the ability to either steal your information, which may be in the form of credit cards, or to take over your system. And so you want to be extremely careful, once again, when you receive those types of phone calls. And what's, really bad is elderly people, and sometimes even your parents, are more susceptible to this, because if they're actually working with a company and they receive a call saying that there's a problem, then oftentimes you may respond to that without realizing that it's not really that individual. If your bank calls you and says that, hey, we realize, some things have occurred on your banking account and we need you to share your banking information, and you know that you bank with that company, then a lot of times your parents may be willing to give them their account information that could result in them losing money by the hackers stealing their records and stealing information on them. And so one of the tasks that we want to give you that you take away from here is, when you go home, talk to your parents. If you're not already at home, talk to your parents later today and ask them if they know about phishing. And of course, the first thing they're going to think you're talking about the F-I-S-H-I-N-G, but let them know you're talking about the P-H-I-S-I-N-G. And so this way you can kind of be a cybersecurity steward, and also pass on the information, letting them know that, hey, this is what phishing is. It's when, those people try to scam you. They call the house, they send you letters, they try to capture your information. Help to not only educate yourself in this, but help to pass it on to others. So that's your first assignment today, and the other ladies are going to share other assignments with you as we go through. So that's the first one, phishing. Now, we can't come back and test you, but we're going to plant this seed and hope that you will remember phishing. You're passing out bait. And so next, we're going to talk about social engineering. Social engineering is really a prime example is the one that I just covered on the phishing. It's basically where you have someone that's trying to deceive you and make you share personal information about yourself. And so I've talked a lot about personal information. And so Anne is going to go through a lot more detail explaining to you what we actually mean when we're talking about personal information. So you want to think about that. But social engineering, it can happen in the form of some of the examples I listed, with the emails. It can happen in the form with the phone calls. There's multiple ways where basically anytime a individual hacker, whatever, they want to get you to share whatever information, whether it's, for them to steal your identity, to steal your information, your personal data, or to get you to install software on their system so that they can take over your system and pretend as if they're acting, in your best interest, when in fact they're actually trying to take advantage of you. So you want to think about, both of these terms, or all of these terms, are a part of social engineering, and that's what it actually stands for. So with that, we're going to take you through a video here that Jimmy Kimmel had, and this is a prime example of social engineering when when he's going through and he's asking you different random people on the street, what's their password. So let's take a moment and listen to the video.
We've been hearing a lot about cybersecurity lately, largely because of what happened to Sony. Companies and individuals are more concerned about the safety and privacy of their information than ever. President Obama crack down on hackers, and he plans to address this in the State of the Union speech on Tuesday. And it's great that the government is working on this, but the truth of the matter is we need to do a better job of protecting ourselves. You know, the most popular password in the United States is password 123. And as long as that's the case, we're vulnerable. So today we sent a camera out on Hollywood Boulevard to help people by asking them to tell us their password. And this is how that went.
We're talking about cybersecurity today and how safe people's passwords are. What is one of your online passwords currently?
It is my dog's name and the year I graduated from high school.
Oh, what kind of dog do you have?
I have a Chihuahua Papillon.
And what's his name?
Jameson.
Jameson. And where'd you go to school?
I went to school back in Greensburg, Pennsylvania.
What school?
Hickfield Area Senior High School.
Oh, when did you graduate?
In 2009.
Oh, great.
It's like my cat's name and then just like a random number.
Okay. And you had this cat for a while?
Yeah, she's my childhood pet.
Aw. And what's her name?
Her name is Jolie.
Jolie. So like a password of yours would be Jolie and then a number.
Yeah.
Like number 1?
Like my birthday.
Oh, when is your birthday?
June 12th.
Oh, nice. What year were you born?
95.
Oh, great. So Jolie, 6, 12, 95.
Yeah.
Got it.
So you mean to give my password right now? No, I cannot do that.
But we all want to know what it is so we can tell you if it's strong or not.
Oh my goodness. Let me think. Okay, one is Tel Aviv. Yeah. 4, 6, 8, and then Israel. It's only 3, but it's for me it's strong enough.
Ireland, 1, 2, 3, 4. Gemma, 1, 2, 3. Spelled Gemma.
Well, most of them are Italian.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah. So like
what's a good Italian password?
my grandma's name.
What's your grandma's name?
Maria.
Maria. So Maria is your password?
Oh yeah, now you know my password. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, the important thing is they let I am too.
So you can see from the example there that was used, and these were all adults, and every last one of them revealed their password information. Not one of them stopped and thought, why do I need to share my password information? But what was more revealing about that is that's actually a prime example of social engineering. I mean, the reporter that was speaking to them was very nice, and she seemed really, she had a very sweet voice. She was engaging, asking them about their pets, wanting to know the pet's name, and then she would trick them out of sharing their date. And only the last guy realized that, oh, I gave you my password information. And so that's what's actually social engineering. It's when a person will engage with you, whether it's in the form of digital, through emails, through communications, such as phone calls, to basically get you to share confidential information that you really want to keep to yourself and not share with anyone, so that they can basically access your accounts, steal your information. So this is the very first phase that we're talking about, just to kind of give you a broad overview of the different areas of Internet of Me on what steps you need to take. So next we're going to bring up Anne, and Anne is going to take you through, and Anne is going to take you through, there you go, the personal data, your personal data and your digital footprint. So Anne, I'm turning over to you.
Thank you, Evelyn. Great job. So my name is Anne Graham. I'm in Austin, Texas, and I'm a security developer here. Once you're a security developer, you're always a security developer. But now I have the best job in IBM. Probably Evelyn or Vandy, they probably think I have the best job in IBM, but I can tell you, I have the best job at IBM. I'm a program manager for Developer Jumpstart. So I get to work with early professional developers as they come into IBM, jumpstarting their career. And I'm really excited to get to talk to you guys today. Before I got that job, I developed security software, so authentication and authorization. So every time that you log into your bank or your parents log into your bank and you do multi-factor, double factor authentication, then I helped develop that software. I was part of that team that developed that software for IBM. So every time you log into your bank, your healthcare, your credit card, IBM software is under that, providing security for those transactions. All right, so enough about me. Let's talk about you. So Evelyn, if you could move us forward. So what is personal data anyway? All right, so let's just try to reframe that and start thinking about what is data that makes up our online identity. All right, so we're going to look at it into 3 different categories: personal data, school data, and leisure data. Now, if we were together, I would say, okay, give me some examples of personal data. So think in your head, what do you think some examples of personal data is? All right, Evelyn, go ahead and show us. Yeah, you're right. Your name, your email, your address, your social security number. You may not know it right now, but eventually you'll be pretty good at spewing out your social security number. All right, so that's personal data. What about school data? What do y'all think? Oh, Evelyn jumped ahead. Anyway, so school data. Probably attendance, probably everybody's perfect attendance now that you're homeschooling, but so grades or attendance, whether you're on the soccer team or not. What about leisure data? So think of like, what would be leisure data? All right, Evelyn, hit it. Who your friends are, whether you like soccer, other hobbies, photos that of your friends, other hobbies that you have. So this is how we could classify data in different categories that make up your personal online identity. All right, moving forward. So social media, if we were together, I'd say, okay, raise your hand if you're on Facebook. And you guys would look at me, ha, 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 and nobody's on Facebook anymore if you're under 50, but there's other, I know you're on other social media. You're on Instagram, you might even tweet, you know, you're on Snapchat. So all these social media outlets have privacy settings. So, and there are people out there who can use this information for illegal activities, to gather data about you to use for illegal activities. So we just want you to think, so please, here's homework number 2. Please, please, please go review the privacy settings of all your social media, all social media networks that you use. All right, moving forward, Evelyn, please. All right, so third homework for today, you need to think before you post. Why, you say, why do I have to think before I post? I'm just a kid. You know, what could anything I post now have to do? How could it hurt me? Think before you post. Go ahead and hit it, Evelyn. Because things never go away. So part of your online identity is going to include things that you post right now as a kid. So you're thinking, okay, I'm a kid, what does it matter? But one day you're going to apply to colleges, all right? One day you're going to want to get a big girl job, all right? And these things that you're posting today are part of your identity. And I don't want you to make the same mistake that this guy named Kyle Kafshid made, okay? So Kyle, he's applying to colleges. He's about to be a college freshman. He applied to Harvard and he got in. He is a smart guy. He's very active. He's an activist. He's met politicians. He's a great guy. He was accepted to Harvard. But when he was younger, him and some of his buddies posted some racial slurs, some very, very ugly things on the internet, all right? And now he's applied to Harvard, and Harvard has this policy, and I'm gonna read it just so I get it right. Harvard reserves the right to withdraw an offer of admission under various conditions, including if you engage or have engaged in behavior that brings into question your honesty, maturity, or moral character. So Kyle, he's totally embarrassed now by what he did when he was younger. He's mortified at that he posted these racial, ugly, ugly comments on social media. He's apologized, but Harvard has rescinded his admission, so he is not going to be able to attend Harvard. So what we want you to do is we want you to think before you post. And what you need to do is to say, okay, in 30 years, what is this post going to look like? How am I going to feel about this? What are other people going to feel? So you think in 30 years, I'm going to do 30-year social media posts. That's what you need to think about. All right, moving ahead, Evelyn. So along with things that you volunteer, so that you consciously post onto the internet, there's also little bits and pieces that are left behind as you use use social media and browse the internet. Some of the things are you volunteer, like stuff you post on Instagram. So my daughter, she traveled to Europe last summer, and then I was on a business trip in December, and she met me out in San Francisco. So what she does for her friends is she'll post a picture, no text. She'll post a picture on Instagram, and then her friends can guess where she is. So when we were in San Francisco, she posted a picture of the Golden Gate Bridge. So now her friends knew we were spending the weekend in San Francisco. So we volunteered that information through Instagram, that people knew where we were located that weekend. So other things you could volunteer is like when your birthday is, another thing like Facebook. So I got an email, my son, his Facebook relationship status changed. Like, oh, what happened? Anyway, I called him up. Yeah, Mom, I got a girlfriend. Okay, wow, you know. So these are things that he's volunteered information out there, so consciously given out via the internet. So there's some unconscious things that happen, such as you're searching. So you search, and the ad trackers grab this. So has anybody like searched for a new dress on the internet, or the router, a new router? We're all virtually and working from home. We need a router. And then you go to Facebook or another social media or something with ads, and all of a sudden you see, wow, that's a beautiful new dress. That's the dress I was just looking for. There's that router I need to buy so I can work virtually at home better. So there's things, again, pieces of stuff that's left behind, and we just want you to be aware of that's happening to you as you use social media and as you browse on the internet. All right, moving forward. Some other things that can happen, again, you consciously, you give information, but sometimes you're unaware. Who likes cookies? Okay, I'm not following the chat, but I'm sure everybody's, yeah, I like cookies. So I like chocolate chip. My husband, his favorite is peanut butter. If you could hit it, Evelyn. So who knows what a cookie is as related to the internet? Hit it again for me. So I'm sure some of you got that right. If we were together, I'm sure somebody would be standing up telling me it's a little piece of data that's being gathered by these sites that you're browsing, okay? And that data is gonna be used for them to gather information about some of your preferences, your location, and it can be used to do personalized websites for you. This is called cookies, all right? Another thing is something called an IP address. So if you could hit it again. So IP stands for Internet Protocol Address. And this is what a computer gets this address when it connects to the internet. So if you connect your cell phone, if you connect an iPad, connect a computer, you get an IP address. And from this, and public IP addresses, they can track your location, and they can track other things about you from a public point of view. So with the IP address and the cookies, people can find out a bunch of stuff about you, who you are, where you've been, and the sites that you like to browse. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to my new friend, Vandy, and she's going to talk to you about the first line of defense as far as protecting your identity on the internet.
Thank you so much, Anne and Evelyn. That was really interesting. I really liked it. I'm sure if my son would have been listening to it, he would have loved it. So now moving on to our next slide. How many of us have at least one phone? I have 2 phones. I have 3. Probably people have. I have seen it. So, and we all know that mobile devices are like portable devices. We sometimes tend to forget somewhere or lose them. Or sometimes people steal it. So why do they steal it? Because there's a lot of data inside the phone. So what can be there on the phone? Could be personal data, like pictures, email addresses, emails, phones, like phone numbers, and so much more information. And as Anne mentioned, that we do most of the things with our phones, tablets. So we must have our Facebook accounts, Instagram accounts, like where we all are celebrities. So that could be actually at stake. So of course, we do have all of this information on the phone. So if one of our devices is lost, what can happen? All of the data which is there on those devices could be lost. or somebody might be able to use them. Somebody might just say that I'm you and I'm going to be portraying you. I'm going to post from your ID. Will that be good? No, I don't want that. So is there anyone here who has cell phone which is not protected with a password or with a pattern or with anything else? I did not have in the beginning. And I went home this summer, like last summer, and my mom told me that she's got a new smartphone and she did not have a password. I just started scrolling through her pictures and she said, why are you scrolling through my pictures? I said, you don't have a passcode. So I can just do anything and everything. So if you don't have a passcode, what could go wrong? Anyone can just check your personal devices, your personal data, your personal messages, which I'm sure you don't want anyone to view it, right? So you want them to be safe. So for those of us that we do not have a password or that do have a password, but that's like a 4-digit normal password, how much it is easy to crack that. So I'll tell you a story of mine where I was just sitting right next to my kid, and there was something that I wanted to check on my phone, and I typed my PIN. So a couple of times my kids saw that PIN, me typing that PIN, and the fifth time I just went to the kitchen and I saw that he was able to crack the password. What he just did, sitting right next to me, checked the numbers and was able to open my phone. So now if a person who's next to you, if it's just a very small password or a passcode, anybody can open your phone, open your device. We'll talk about the passwords a little bit more in detail when we move forward. Moving on to the next slide. So I can't see you, but then if you write down your password, which can be just like a 6-digit character password. So let's do it pretty fast and write down a passcode. So let me write it down. I have written down. So that's PASSW0RD, which is like the first thing that I wanted to remember and I wanted to write down. And I used to have that password in the just beginning when I started using the internet. So some of you might still have it. What could go wrong? How much time it takes to crack that password? So Evelyn, let's move to the next slide and see how much time does it take to crack that password. 2, 3, 4, boom, I have your password. So if you have a very insecure password or a very tiny password, anyone can actually guess it, and they will be able to access all your emails or your personal data, which you want it to be secure. I want my personal data to be secure. I don't want anyone to know my personal information. Never ever. So let's move ahead and see what are the top passwords or the worst passwords. First, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and people still do keep it. Password, which I just wrote. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, QWERTY, so on and so forth. Some people might keep the passwords at April at 1, 2, 3, April at 2020. I've still seen that. Like right now, we are in May at 2020. Who cannot guess it? Anyone in the world will be able to guess that. They just have to give it a try. So let's make sure we don't keep these worst passwords on our phones, on our email addresses, or anywhere. We want our data to be secure. So when we go back home, if we do have these insecure passwords, let's change them. Let's discuss with our parents if they have those passwords. Let's ask them to change these passwords because it's very important that our data remains secure. So if we move on to our next slide, what are the good practices or what are the good things that we can do with our passwords? Once you have used a password, or if somebody gets to know your password, what can we do? Let's change the password right away. And the password which was shared with somebody else, let's not reuse it ever again, because we know that somebody got our password and they might try and check it. If not today, maybe after 10 days, maybe after a month, after 2 months. We never know. And if you don't know what is a two-factor authentication, let's have a password and a number or authenticator or a code that can be sent to our phones so that we know a password, but there's something which is randomly generated from somewhere with some technology be sent to us, which will be like unique in itself. And once that's there, how about have a long password with combining alphabets, numbers, symbols, or passphrases, which is like, I love IBM. I love CyberDay4Girls. People think that, yes, but who will have that password? It's still a long password. It's a passphrase, but I still love IBM CyberDay4Girls. So what we need to do is we need to make sure we have our strong passwords. Nobody can guess it. Let's not share our passwords with anyone. I don't share my password with anyone. Even if somebody gets to know, I change that right away. So let's do that. And how about saving our password somewhere? Not just writing it down and sticking it on the computer or on the fridge or somewhere where anyone can see it. It's on a password manager, which can keep our passwords, all the passwords that we have, because we have so many social media accounts, we have so many schools accounts, then we have so many personal information which is floating around. So how about keeping it in a password manager, which remembers that? And then we only have to remember one single master password. That's going to be it. And once we remember that big one, we'll be all good to go. And how about protecting our device? So Evelyn, let's move to the next slide and see what are the things that we can do to protect our devices, because they are prone to so many attacks. So I have seen that people getting so many ads and so many adwares, viruses on the devices, could be laptop, phones, tablets, or anything else, or Chromebooks. So if we have our personal computer, which does not have that adequate protection that we want our data to be secure, so what we need to do is, first thing, let's have an antivirus system on the computer. Have virus protection installed on all the PCs that we have. And there's something called patches. Watch the developers keep posting. So let's keep our systems up to date. If you have a phone, I'm sure the phone company might be sending you updates. Update your phone. There is something new, new vulnerability, new bug, or there's some new flaw that has been found. Let's update it. Let's update it regularly. As in when you see an update on your phone, let's do that, because the company wants your data to be secure, wants you to be secure. And what you can do is you can back up your data if something happens to device, or if something happens to the hard disk. Oh, all the data would be lost. Trust me, this has happened to me. I was like, so I had my all pictures, I had my reading material, everything on my laptop, and suddenly it crashed. I was like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. Fortunately, it came back up. But I had to make sure that now I have backup of everything that I have on my system, on my phone, or on the cloud services that I have. But it's also very important to protect our mobile devices, especially since these are the most prone to being lost or being misplaced. Like I said, sometimes we're just buying something in a mall and we tend to just keep it there and forget about it. So other than that, how about enabling the Touch ID or Face ID? Because you are unique. Your fingerprints are unique. Nobody would be able to do that till the time like they're genius and they're going to just create a clone of you, and then only they'll be able to do it. So finally, I'll say again, and I'll say 1,000 times more, back up your data. I have known since ages that if something happens, you will lose everything. And I have lost my phone. And I just told you that it happened to my laptop, and I don't want it to happen with you. So moving on, there are some simple rules that we can follow. What are these? Let's keep our data secure. If you have an email, that should be only for you, not for the whole world to know what your email password is. Not even your parents sometimes, if you want your data to be with you. So you decide what you like, who you meet, and where you meet them. You don't have to post every single detail on the social media. There are a few details which I want people to know about me. I only post these details. That's all about it. Nothing else you'll be able to find it. Sometimes I feel like posting a picture of mine on social media, and I have tiny groups where is like there's a close friends, there's an acquaintance, there is a larger group of people whom I like. Okay, I want to broadcast, like as N said, that you want people to know. And as Evelyn said, there must be some social engineering that people would just be looking at you and observing what you're trying to do. So what you do on the internet is not the business of strangers. It's only you who will be deciding factor. What you talk about on the telephone is your business, and you don't want anybody to know about it. And how about we decide what we publish on the social communities? We don't want anything and everything to be known to the whole world. Moving on to the next slide. So let's secure all the confidential details that we have: phone number, passwords, our date of birth. Because some of the people, as Evelyn showed in the video, they have their date of birth in the passwords. So let's secure that. Let's secure our identity and make the internet a safe place to live. And when we all are at home and homebound, we are surfing the internet, we are doing all the thing internet. And I'm sure this is going to be there for a little while. So why not be secure and not be prone to all these identity thefts and people getting to know about our identities when we don't want them to be known. So let's move on to the next slide, Evelyn. That's one important thing. How can I miss that? So let's make sure that when we are trying to browse a website, we see a lock symbol on the website. And as soon as you open the browser, type Instagram.com or Twitter.com, you will see a lock symbol. That means the website is secure with HTTPS. And your data is secure when you're sending it. You're accessing any sites. So let's make sure if the website is not on HTTPS, we're not going to share our credentials. We're not going to access it. We're just going to close it. So that's what I had to say today. And we're going to open it up for questions. Okay, so there are a few questions. So Evelyn, and do you want to take any of these?
So the last one, when it talks about what types of things you can do with your data, is they can target you as far as social engineering goes. So if they learn your pet's name and your date of birth, they can start trying to target you from a password point of view, just as you saw in the Jimmy Kimmel video. Other thing they can do is target you for sales, for ads. You know, if they know you like soccer, then they may target you for soccer equipment. So that's the type of things they can do with your data. I'll let you pick a question, Evelyn.
Okay. I'm looking for a question. I think one of the I guess I'll start in looking at the very first one where the question came in saying they were, let's see, what is this? How can we teach the importance of online safety to young children who only want to hop on these social media sites? And so one of the things that I always start with in trying to help, people understand is a couple of years ago, there was a popular heating facility, a home heater. And they had a group of kids at one of the coding sessions that they had, and they took a group of kids and had them see if they could break in and hack into that thermostat. It was a thermostat. I don't know why I'm saying heating, but into that thermostat and showed and were able to demonstrate how easy it is for you to actually hack into an environment. And, this was, first and foremost to get kids to begin to understand coding and how susceptible different devices are. But there was also incidents a couple of years back where hackers were hacking into some of the kids' toys. The kids would be in bed, and then, the toy, their little teddy bear would say, "Hello, how are you?" And kind of freak the kids out, and they go running to parents. And of course, that was a good lesson to say that, when you're going and you're clicking on those links and those applications, you really don't know what you're opening up. You don't know what the hacker is thinking, if it's someone that's just trying to, get a good laugh at your expense, unfortunately, or if it's someone that actually means you harm. And so you have to start with the least, with a simple example of like the person hacking into I think they hacked into the household network, and then they were able to access other IT devices within the household and begin to, tap into different areas. So you want to start at the least area where you can kind of pick up something that a child really understands and connects with, and show them, hey, if you give away this information, freely, what they could really be giving away. Because if you don't understand the tangible kind of aspect of it, of what am I really losing and what am I risking, then sometimes it's not always that easy to be able to get it over to the children, hey, you want to be careful here. Because this information, we all post pictures and so forth on social media, but we have to remember the example that Ann had mentioned. The kid posted things probably trying to be smart when they were younger, but it backfires sometimes, because if you put it on the internet, it's called the World Wide Web for a reason. It never goes away. So let's see. And someone asked if they reset their phone. Let's see. When someone resets their phone, is the information truly deleted, or is it still traceable through the phone itself? So I can't automatically speak to this because I don't know the provider, but one of the things that, a lot of companies and organizations have is the information is really never deleted. If you think about a lot of the lawsuits and stories that have come up in the news where, the different courts would subpoena the records from different callers and so forth when, as a part of lawsuits. So even though you send out a tweet, you send out a text, you call a person, you think, oh, I can just go into my phone and delete it, that the information is gone. In reality, it's not. If it was really gone, if you think about a lot of the lawsuits that have happened, they wouldn't be able to retrieve that data. But the same way that Vandana was telling you about backing up your data, the companies and organizations that you get these, utilities and tools and your devices from, they're backing up their data too. And so when they back up their data, they may not have, it's not that everyone will be able to access and retrieve that information, but it is backed up because by law, they have to be able to restore. If something goes down, if their system goes down, just like she was talking about, an actual device, if the server goes down, the company has to be able to restore the information from a backup to bring that system back up. And so when they restore it, that's your information. So unless, one thing you have to think about is, yes, it's still out there. Any other questions? Okay, I see another question that came in. What types of things can be done with your data? Why is it so valuable? And so this is one of the things that I had talked about earlier on in the presentation is when we look at some of the historical information, as I mentioned, there's, on average around 900 million records that are stolen each year. And the companies, the cost of these records is costing companies around $6 trillion a year. And we actually had a team within IBM that went through and assessed it even further to begin to understand how much does it actually cost us per record. When we lose an actual record, and it was averaging right at $233 is the information that was reported. So when you think about the loss of a record and let's just say my social security number or my driver's license. I can actually speak to the fact that my identity was stolen, you know, years ago, where someone, and of no fault of my own, but the company that I was working with didn't destroy their records properly, and they sold to another company and just kind of dumped the records in the dumpster, and my identity was stolen. When you start looking at the risk and why is it valuable, I was extremely fortunate that I was able to stop it before it went further. But those same individuals had applied and had been, you know, for cards, for loans, for credit cards, you know, stores. And so this is all the things that you have to think about of why it's so valuable. I mean, because that information, you have teams, if they're able to steal your identity and steal your information and just say, get your driver's license or make up a driver's license. We hear on all of the spy shows all the time about how people create new identities, you know, when they're hiding and stuff and they have multiple identities and multiple passports. That same information is extremely valuable because it basically enables you to sign checks, to get credit, to, you know, and so forth. So you want to think about all things like that when it comes to the identity. And that's why it's so valuable, because we may not look at it as having a monetary value associated with it, but my social security and my date of birth can get me credit. And so that's where the value lies. And so, Anne, Vandy, if you have any additional information to add?
Just be safe from the coronavirus
Definitely.
and from all the thefts.
Yes.
Yeah.
Be safe.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So Heather, I'm not sure how we turn back over to you.
So Heather, I think, has left, but I think if there are no more questions from the audience, we can begin to wrap this session up. A huge thank you to our IBM team here and all of you wonderful panelists for being here today and sharing your information with all of us here as well. You've been extremely helpful, and thank you so much.